I first heard about the Singing River while traveling through the deep forests and forgotten back roads of Mississippi. The locals didn't talk about it the way people usually discuss a tourist attraction or a historic landmark. Instead, they lowered their voices. Some refused to discuss it at all. Others would only tell the story after sunset, as if darkness itself was somehow connected to the legend. The river looked ordinary when I first arrived. Its waters flowed quietly beneath towering cypress trees draped with Spanish moss. Birds called from the distant woods, and the humid Mississippi air hung heavily around me. Yet there was something unsettling about the place. Even before hearing the full story, I felt as though I was standing somewhere that carried a memory older than any living person. According to local folklore, centuries ago, a Native American tribe lived along these riverbanks. They were peaceful people who depended on the river for survival, but one day, a rival tribe approached, bringing conflict and destruction. Realizing they could not win the coming battle, the people gathered along the water's edge and began to sing. The haunting melody echoed through the forest as warriors, elders, women, and children joined together in one final song. The legend claims that by morning, the entire tribe had vanished. No bodies, no survivors, no explanation, only silence. Or at least that's what people believed. Because years later, strange reports began to emerge. Travelers crossing the river at night claimed they could hear faint singing drifting across the water, not music from a boat, not voices from the shore, but something ancient, something distant, something that seemed to rise directly from the river itself. As I stood beside the water that evening, watching the sunlight disappear behind the trees, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The forest had become unnaturally quiet, and somewhere beyond the darkening river, I thought I heard the faintest whisper of a song. Determined to understand the truth behind this famous Mississippi legend, I decided to remain near the river after dark. Most locals had already warned me against doing so. One elderly resident looked me directly in the eyes and said, "If you hear the singing, don't follow it." At the time, I assumed it was simply part of the folklore. Hours later, I wasn't so sure. The night had become completely still. There was no wind, no movement in the trees. Even the insects seemed to have fallen silent. The only sound was the slow current of the river moving through the darkness. Then it happened. At first I thought it was my imagination. A faint melody drifted across the water. I immediately stood up and listened carefully. The sound was distant but unmistakable. It wasn't a single voice. It sounded like many voices singing together in perfect harmony. The melody was beautiful, but there was something deeply unsettling about it. It carried a sadness that felt impossible to describe. The singing grew louder. Without realizing it, I found myself walking closer to the riverbank. The sound seemed to be moving, not along the shore, not through the forest, but across the surface of the water itself. As clouds drifted away from the moon, I noticed something strange. Out in the middle of the river, shapes appeared with the mist, human silhouettes, dozens of them, standing motionless, watching. For several terrifying seconds, I stared at the figures. Then the mist shifted, and every single shape disappeared, yet the singing continued, now closer than ever. And for the first time that night, I understood why locals spoke of a curse rather than a legend. The next morning, I began searching historical records, tribal accounts, and eyewitness reports connected to the Singing River. What I discovered only deepened the mystery. For generations, people had reported hearing the same phantom singing. Hunters, fishermen, travelers, and even law enforcement officers described nearly identical experiences. Many claimed the phenomena occurred most often on quiet nights when fog covered the water. Skeptics offered explanations ranging from unusual acoustics to distant sounds carried by the wind. Yet those theories failed to explain one troubling detail. Many witnesses reported hearing the singing even when there was no wind at all. Some also claimed that electronic equipment malfunctioned near the river during these experiences. Audio recordings often captured strange distortions, cameras occasionally failed, and several people described feeling disoriented, as though the singing itself was drawing them toward the water. To this day, no one has solved the mystery of Mississippi's Singing River. Was it the lingering memory of a tragic event, a supernatural curse rooted in ancient history, or a phenomenon science has yet to understand? Years have passed since I stood on those riverbanks, but I still remember the sound. It wasn't frightening because it was loud. It wasn't terrifying because it threatened me. It was terrifying because it felt real. Sometimes late at night, I think back to that haunting melody drifting through the darkness, and I wonder whether the voices I heard belonged to the living or to those who never truly left the river at all. Subscribe for more.